Good morning, everybody. Morning. I'd like to do. Good morning. I'd like to do roll call. Okay, Dorothy McKinley Ceresi, I'm here. Let's do the committee. Annette?
Yeah, we might not have a quorum.
Rick?
Here.
Hey, nice to see you. Long time.
It's been a while.
Rayanne?
Here.
Hi,
Finally,
how are you?
Good. You finally got us. We were in another meeting somehow, but they finally hooked us on.
Yeah, we were doing insurance. I was doing
we were too.
Yeah,
we were too. So we're here now. Thanks.
They threw me off that committee.
Yeah, I know. Hi, everybody.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see all of you.
Michael Lim is not here. Robert Aberson is not here. Okay, we'll take a roll call for New York.
Arnita Gant, Department of State.
Dave Mossberg, Department of State.
Jack Bolello, Department of State.
Okay, how about Albany?
Amy Pensby, Department of State.
Denise Tidings, Department of State.
Carol Anderson, Department of State. Donna Zoller, Department of State.
Carol Fansler, Department of State.
Keith Simon, Department of State.
How about Buffalo? Anybody else?
Go ahead.
They want to introduce ourselves if we're not on that committee.
Ron Schwartz, Department of State.
Hi, Ron. Okay, if we can go over the minutes from the May 13th meeting.
Dorothy, we don't have a quorum, so we can't vote on it.
I know. Are there any
Okay.
corrections, though? They looked good. I didn't see any corrections. Rick, did you see anything, or anybody else?
No.
Okay, well, we'll table them till the next meeting. Okay, and I think we can move on to an enforcement update.
Okay, I'm going to submit a inspection review. This is activity that took place between the last quarter, since our last meeting, June, July, August, and part of September. During that period, we had 423 appearance enhancement businesses inspected. There were 67 unlicensed businesses found. We conducted pre-hearing conferences and scheduled 294 appearance enhancement businesses for the conference. We collected in fines $73,780, and 24 appearance enhancement businesses were forwarded for hearing determination.
Wow. Thank you. That's a significant amount of fines.
Yes.
Predominantly, what were the fines, though? I mean,
The fines
Unlicensed?
incorporated unlicensed activity, as well as technical violations, failure to have insurance, failure to have material safety data sheet. I guess that's the major fines.
is it because people don't know that they need to have that material? And not getting that information out to the licensee?
I think it's a combination of both. They do know, and some are not aware.
Okay.
Can you tell me how many inspectors we have for Manhattan alone, and then for the rest of the state? Jack?
Sure. Currently we have 5 in Manhattan. We have an additional 8 in the New York City area. And we have, let's see, about 7 for the remainder of the state.
Including upstate?
Right, upstate, we have, it stands right now about 5.
Wow.
It sure is a big difference, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
wow, interesting.
So a total of,
A total of about 20,
26.
well, there's 13 investigators in New York City that do these type of inspections.
Right.
And we have 7 upstate in Long Island. So it's 13 in New York City and 7 everywhere else, so for a total of 20.
Oh,
mm-hmm,
wow, that's a big state for 20 inspectors.
yep.
But do you normally do that many inspections a quarter or more? I thought last time it was more.
Last time was more.
Yeah,
yes.
it was more, okay. Do you think that word is getting out to people that you are inspecting more often?
Yeah, because we're finding the amount of unlicensed activity decreasing. So I do believe that word is getting out.
Okay. I asked if the word of inspections was getting out throughout the community because, sometimes when there's inspectors that go around the community and the colleagues will call each other and, double check to make sure that people are licensed and, do the things that they need to do. But, again, maybe we're not doing enough to get that message out to people about what they need to have to be gainfully employed legally.
Well, most of that material is on our website. If they have access to the internet, there is a wide variety of information about what the licensing requirements are. I mean, our licensing law booklet is on there, so.
But the licensing law book's only available in English.
Right.
You have
Sure.
26, 27 languages spoken in New York, and that always seems to be a concern. We tried to do some consumer books and, little pamphlets in language that, just some bullet points that you need this, and need this. And, I still think that we need to get that information out in more than English, and particularly the laws.
So we have printed brochures in Spanish.
Yes. Yeah, that I know we do. But again, we have a lot of languages that I think that we really need to address, and even with some bullets or community act, we continue to say we have to reach out to the community and do some hearings, particularly maybe with the new Department of State website's a good place to put some information out that people know that.
We also have an interpretation program initiated by the governor. So
Right. Yeah, I did
you
see it.
can-
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we would like it to see 0 unlicensed businesses, obviously, and 0 unlicensed. Not that we don't want you to collect fines. We know you need the money, but we'd like the money to go into the economy more than to, to the department.
May I just ask one more question? What about the pictures that are supposed to be posted on the license? So they're not interchangeable when an inspector comes in. Are you seeing pictures on the licenses?
For the most part, yes. But there are interchangeable pictures, so
Right.
you just place photo here, so you can remove it.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask, is there a possibility of maybe more inspectors, especially in this area, in the Western New York along, or not? Do you not feel a necessity for that?
Well, it's a matter of staffing. I mean, we are hiring another investigator in the very near future for upstate New York. That person will likely be will be assigned to our Albany office.
When you say upstate New York, though, I mean, we're at the opposite end, and we're
She's in Buffalo. Buffalo, Rochester.
Buffalo
Well, right, yeah.
area. We're Buffalo, Niagara Falls, closer to Canada, and I see a tremendous amount of nail salons coming in, and I'm wondering because a lot of them come in from Toronto.
Okay,
So I was
right now-
wondering, go ahead.
No, right, well, as it stands now, we have 2 people that work out of the Buffalo office that do inspections, so they would be responsible for doing inspections in a wide variety of counties in that part of the state. As it stands now, we're not hiring another investigator in that particular office, so, we would have to utilize the 2 that we have to cover that very, very large territory.
Do you know how many counties it covers, just approximately?
Not off the top of my head, no, I don't. But it is several. Mr. Schwartz might be able to help us.
15 counties. The gentleman that's here with us from the Department of State said they cover 15 counties.
Mr. Schwartz would know that.
Yeah, that's his area. Rayanne, is there
Yes.
a lot of unlicensed activity up there that you're aware of?
I think a tremendous amount. I really and truly think a tremendous amount because we have so many rural areas that maybe the inspectors aren't even aware of. I really think there are a lot. And I think that people know that most of the inspectors are in the cities, you know, Albany, New York, and through that area, so they can get away with whatever here.
Okay, well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. We
15.
only have 20 people,
Right.
and we have to use them to the best advantage, you know.
Oh,
obviously,
I
but
understand. I understand that, but 15 counties is a lot.
It certainly is.
It's a
Certainly is.
huge territory. Mr. Schwartz, would you give an estimate of mileage for that?
200 miles, probably at the furthest point.
200 miles at the furthest point.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if you were able to give us a specific community or county that was of particular concern, we might be able to focus some of our efforts in
Okay.
that particular.
Let me
So-
get back to you on that one then.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, appreciate it, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's a big territory.
it is a big territory, yeah. But we want to get somebody up there before it snows. Next week.
Oh, stop it, stop
I'm
it.
sorry, I'm only kidding. Only kidding.
I know.
I mean, I'm encouraged to see that, you know, you've done so many inspections, and we do know that word gets out once people are around.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that people don't understand what they need to do to be legally employed and licensed for the state. So I think in some aspects we have to, you know, do a little bit more of reaching out to communities. And, you know, I continue to say it needs to be information needs to be in a few more languages, you know, kind of like the voting. You know.
Yeah.
I think, and I know it's difficult to print that, but I do think that, you know, we somehow need to have some terminology in there for people. So, okay, thanks, I appreciate that.
Hey, Darcy.
Yeah, we know it's a tough job. Maybe we can have an update on early testing and the state exams.
Yeah. On behalf,
Dave is going to take over for Whitney,
just for this
just for this issue.
Just for
and the next item.
He prepped us already.
Yes. So I consulted with Whitney last week. The early testing proposal, as everyone knows, does require a regulatory amendment and a system update, which would permit the students to sit for the examination before completing their education. Currently, staff is working with the software developer to determine how much it would cost to modify the system before moving forward with any sort of proposals or text change. So we're currently just waiting for price quote before staff actually moves forward. As it concerns item C, which is the early testing. So that's that item. Item D, which I'm also covering for Whitney again at this meeting, is the MSDS update. The MSD update would permit, as everyone knows, electronic storage of MSDS sheets as opposed to the physical copies. It does also require an amendment to the current regs. According or following the last meeting and the conversations with Whitney, the initial proposal has received governor's office approval, but that does not mean that the reg can be implemented just yet. It still needs to be reviewed by the Division of Budget before any finalizing or publication of the proposed rule be issued for public comment. So at this point, now we're waiting for budget approval. Again, everything is contingent on that, and so there's that. It's not yet definitive that it's going to go forward.
Okay, it's not definitive it's going to go forward. It's not definitive it's not going to go forward.
Correct. We're just
Okay.
waiting for additional reviews.
And it is an option, you know, it's just an electronic way for people to keep the MSDS sheets, which, you know, we're in these days of electronics with so much information. I mean, I just think it's kind of a no-brainer, but it's okay. Do we have any idea for this in particular? No.
Unfortunately, there's no real
Okay.
estimate.
May I just ask, the
All right.
early testing initiative is so important for students, and I'm just wondering, if the price quote is high, does that mean this state of New York will not go ahead with such a good idea?
That I don't know. I'm not working with the developer, and I'm not part of those conversations. I just know sort of what the process is at this point, and so the only thing I can say is that we are working with the developer to figure out the price quote first, to see if it's feasible.
Okay. We're not happy, but
May I make a comment from proprietary schools regarding the early testing?
yes, absolutely. Is that Carol?
This is Carol.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
Okay, thank you. We've had discussions within the Bureau regarding this, and we have some concerns. Many of our institutions have rolling admissions, and they can start anywhere within the curriculum. What this means is that a student, when they hit 80%, may not have received all of the theory. So we want to make a contingency that they can test at 80% as long as they have received 100% of the theory.
Yes.
That's absolutely
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's great.
And actually, the Education Subcommittee looked at that at length, Carol, to see what we would need to do to move some stuff around and what was taught in the latter part. Particularly, this was a concern for the BOCES schools, whether they in fact needed to move some lesson plans and to move some of their material to the beginning part of the curriculum. So, we obviously know that it has to be contingent on them completing all of the theoretical portions, as well as all of the assessments. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're perfectly okay with that.
I
Okay,
think as a
fine.
past BOCES instructor, I think when the students have reached the 80%, I think most of the theory has been taught. Actually, I have a guest speaker with me today who will speak at the public comment, who is now teaching at BOCES, so she can speak to that issue. But I
Right.
think by that time they have gotten everything, and most of the rest of it is just practice and
Right.
anything that they need to do to just bring forth the information.
Yeah, thanks, Rayanne, and and
Okay.
thank you for working on that committee with me, because
Oh, you're welcome.
Kind of difficult to get all the BOCES people together with
Right.
everybody's schedules, and
Right.
and that has reached out to some of the aesthetic schools also, with her little subcommittee to see what they have come up with, and they're kind of in agreement also that they can move a couple of things up, including like last minute assessments.
Right.
I think what we want to be certain of is that the student has the opportunity to test early if it's applicable and if they feel that they want to. It's completely optional, obviously.
Especially with the schedule of the BOCES and of the
Absolutely.
public schools. Absolutely, right.
Yeah, with the rolling enrollments and stuff, it is a concern. So, I mean, we'd love to push forward. We do think it's a
Yeah.
huge initiative for all of our students. So we'll table that until we get some more updating. But
Okay.
Carol, thank you for that comment, and we'll be contingent on everybody making sure that the student has finished all the theoretical portion of the
Thank you,
content.
Dorothy.
Oh, my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. Okay, if we can have an update on continuing education. Go ahead, Annette.
We're looking into every state. I started with aesthetics, and of course, continuing education hours are definitely required for instructors in most of the states. Some of the most forward states are Colorado, which is requiring 14 hours if an esthetician is doing microdermabrasion, 24 hours if someone is doing the aesthetic chemical resurfacing treatments, and in Illinois, every 2 years, 10 hours of continuing education to get your license renewed. This was an initiative that Dorothy and I really would like to see. When someone every 4 years goes to renew their license for aesthetics or nails or all cosmetology, they will have mandated continuing hours of education, which we feel are necessary to keep our appearance enhancement businesses current on any laws that come down.
Hey.
So we're going to investigate more on every field and try to get you some statistics.
One of the things we did was we looked at both the cosmetology and the aesthetics as well as for the practitioner, and then we looked at some continuing ed for instructors because we wanted to see if they correlated, was it with the same content. Because in many of our states we know that for our practitioners to work in a school, they have to have a current practitioner's license. So in many states, the practitioner has specific content that has to be covered, and in some states it's pretty flexible based upon what the instructor license requires. So we're trying to correlate what needs to be done. We also did some research on what states allow online education, and we have a list of that, which we'll forward when we finish doing the rest of our research. And there are a significant amount of states that partner with companies that do the online training, particularly Florida, which does a lot, Ohio does a lot, Minnesota and Wisconsin, I think. They do a lot of online training, not just for cosmetology, but for many professions. So we're still putting a lot of stuff together. There has been a lot of legislative changes with cosmetology and some stuff that's coming up. So we want to make sure we have the most accurate information, which we'll have for the committee at the next meeting, in all the 3 disciplines. So we're still looking to have continuing ed. We think it's hugely important as we go forward with disinfection, sanitation, and making sure that people are doing what they need to do. Obviously, to save the practitioners $80,000 in fines for not doing what they're supposed to do would be huge. Service to the industry as well, obviously to the consumer. So we're continuing to work on that, and we'll have it for you at the next meeting. We do have some guests here that are going to, like Ray Ann's, that wanted to speak out about during the public comment about continuing ed. So we'll introduce those as soon as we finish with our agenda. Is that okay, everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, can we have an update on the e-licensing initiative?
Yeah, hi, this is Amy. I just wanted to provide an update on the e-licensing initiative that we had spoke about at one of our other board meetings. We had done a PowerPoint presentation, and at that time, it was supposed to be implemented sometime during the summer, but as mentioned during the meeting, it's a very, very complex initiative because there's 5 or 6 agencies. There's 6 agencies involved in the whole thing, and along with all the partner agencies, which is the online permitting system. So there's been some delays, but I just wanted to let you know they are anticipating that by the end of the year that it will be implemented. We're going to be sending out a letter to the businesses just informing them of the changes that are going to be coming up in the near future. One of the things that once we implement, as you know, it's an online system.
Right.
So in order for somebody to have access to their record to make online changes or even to apply online, they have to create an account. And so in order to do that, there's going to have to be a PIN letter that's sent out to all of our licensees. The PIN letter is going to allow you to create an account and then claim your license, so that your account's there and your record's attached to it. So the letter that's going out in the near future is kind of just letting the businesses know and asking them to tell all their operators of the upcoming system, and that you'll be receiving a PIN letter in the mail at the time of implementation. We can't send the PIN letter out until all the data is converted, because the PIN letter is generated when the record goes into the new system.
Sure.
So anyways, yes?
Amy, you mean a PIN letter to the licensees and to the schools, right?
Well, not to the schools.
Schools.
The PIN letter is a way to claim your license record.
Okay.
Now, we also are going to be sending a letter out to the schools too, giving them updates as to what the new system will entail, I think there was some notification out earlier by the Department of Ed of all this upcoming
Yes.
system to the schools. So we're going to follow that up. We've got a lot of email addresses of schools that are involved who want to be part of the email certification or affirmation program. But
Yes.
we haven't done all of them, so we're going to be sending out letters to both the schools that have agreed to be part of it, just to give them an update, and also to the ones that we haven't heard back from to see if they're interested in being part of the affirmation program. And if they are, they have to just provide us with their email address. In addition, once we get everybody's email address, because it's very expensive to send out all these letters and everything. But once we do that, we're going to be sending it's like a step-by-step process to help the schools help their students. So it's going to be kind of like a tutorial to the schools to say, okay, this is what an applicant needs to do to be able to register and schedule themselves for exams and all that, so that the schools are informed, because I think that's the best way, one of the best ways for people to get the information out there is through the schools. They can help their students actually get a license right away. So, we're really hoping that will assist the students getting licensed quicker. In addition, we're going to be before we go live, we're going to ask people of the industry to do some usability testing for us. So I was going to reach out to some board members, some people, some schools, some members of the industry, just to look at the system and give us some feedback and some comments. Not that everything will be able to be updated right away, but we want your input to give us ideas of how to make it better, and if we can, we will, or maybe better instructions out there or whatever. It's always great to have people who are going to be using the system to give us some ideas before we actually implement it.
Great.
So that's where we are right now. I just wanted to let you know it's still coming. We're excited and we're hoping that it will help everybody out, the industry and our department. It's going to be rough, I have to tell you up front initially, because we have to convert a lot of data that's very old. So there's going to be people with multiple licenses, and it's not going to be easy, but in the long run, it's going to be very, very beneficial to allow people to schedule themselves, do things online. It's going to make the process a lot quicker, and we anticipate that it's going to be, very beneficial. So that's where we are right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Amy. We applaud that initiative because, it's really huge to have licenses electronically. I think, like everything, we've all worked with computer systems. We know it's going to be a little hiccup, but I think once we get over those hurdles and people get used to it, based upon the instructions, the easier it is for the schools to get students, on e-licensing. And, the majority of our students that are graduating today are extremely computer literate, and, for them to fill out an application online is kind of a no-brainer. It's going to be more for the licensees, getting that PIN number and what. So I think, as a board member as well as a school member, we need to work with our licensees now to make sure that they know that this information is coming out, to be expecting it sometime by the beginning of the new year, so that they know that they have to go online and, make sure that the data is correct and, the name is correct, the addresses and all that stuff. So thank you for that. One of the things that I asked to bring up at the agenda is the licensing, the order of the exams. From our perspective and from a school person, we currently use the practical portion of the exam as the last portion. So when we're doing our statistics for our accrediting agency, that's what we use. And I believe from one of our previous meetings, we discussed that order may change. Is that still the way that it's going to be, or will it still be the written test first and then the practical?
No, they're going to be they can schedule themselves in either order. And
Okay.
that'll allow them to hopefully get their exam process quicker, because we're going to have sites set up. So if they can get themselves into a written and a practical all in the same month, they can, get it all done really quickly. Where now we're kind of scheduling them, and sometimes it takes longer because we have to wait for them to pass in
Right.
order to then schedule. So we're hoping that
Right.
this just makes it a quicker
Speeds up the
process.
Right. Okay.
Would you repeat that again? So what you're going to do is the student can apply in whichever is first. If there's a practical right away, they can take the practical. If there's a written, they can take the written and then take the other. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well,
Okay.
they could take them, to be just, it's very simple. I mean, once their application is submitted and it's approved, they're going to get emails saying, you know, they're a school person, you're eligible to take your written, you're eligible to take your practical. They'll be given a link, and they're independent. There'll be a practical schedule out there for different test centers and a written schedule out there with different written centers, and they can sign themselves up at the same time. They can take it one day, the next day, you know, they can. So the people that are motivated will get themselves in, get their tests done, and be licensed, you know, quicker.
And get things completed in a big hurry. Okay.
If they're available. I mean, obviously, once people start to get into the process, I mean, sites for practical may fill up.
Are going to fill up quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
The only the only thing
Go ahead.
from our end is we have to reprogram some material on our end because our accreditation standards and our formatting is done where we don't count that student until they finish what we consider now the practical portion. So we need to make sure that we've given the schools enough time to change some of that because the computers
Right.
have to be changed. The other programming.
Good. Oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be a great thing because
I'm
around here it
very
was so
excited.
difficult. Yeah, I am
I'm
too.
very
That's
excited,
wonderful.
yeah. And I think if the student does take the practical first, and you know their self-esteem because they've passed and they've done well, I think that they're going to be signing up for the written right away if they haven't already taken it. So
I guess
the sooner we can
and
get
I
them
guess
licensed, the better.
the only other question is now if they pass one or when they apply, they still get their temporary, correct?
Correct, and they'll be able to get their second temp provided they've passed one exam.
Great.
So if
Thank you.
If they pass the written, they're going to get a second temp. I mean the practical.
Yes, well, as it is now, the way it currently is that when you apply, you can get your first temp. In order to get
Right.
your second temp, you have to pass your written exam.
That is
But
correct.
in the future, you'll be able to apply, you'll be able to get your first temp. And, you know, if you're still hanging around 6 months down the road, you'll be able to apply for the second temp provided you've passed either the written or the practical. You have to have passed one.
Right.
And
That's huge.
And in a lot of cases, it's not that they're hanging around, it's the fact that they weren't able to fit them both in the time frame. Is that correct?
Right.
So this is going
That
So
can
this is
happen
gonna be good.
depending on- Right, depending on the
Go ahead.
discipline, and, you know, obviously aesthetics is a tougher one for us on the practical end because the ratio and the number of beds needed to test is smaller.
Correct.
So if they get their thing and they can test, they should get on right away and schedule themselves a practical.
Well, and in the past, the biggest problem has been the practical exams aren't given in the summer months at any of the BOCES in this area. So if your temp is running out or if you take your written and pass it, you know, it's the time frame that's the problem.
Right.
Okay, that's great.
And that'll still exist. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have access to those schools around the summer.
Right, exactly, but that's what, go ahead.
And is BOCES the only testing site in Buffalo? For the
Several of the
practical?
BOCES, but they're the only testing sites, and that might be something that you might have to look at because those schools are shut down.
Right.
They don't give them, I think, in June, July, August, and sometimes the beginning of September, but it all depends on the availability of the school itself.
I get
And
it.
when
right.
they'll, yeah, so
Okay.
that's a
Really
tough call.
Maybe we can
Generally,
get
it's
that.
July and August.
Yeah, maybe we can get that changed soon. Yes.
I think we should make a distinction about the 80%ers. I hear that if you pass either test, that doesn't apply to the 80% people.
No, the
800.
80% would only be for early written testing, Rick,
Right, right.
because we wanted to have the opportunity to remediate if possible. You know, I think the thing that we're struggling with in Manhattan is, for example, in many of our schools and in many of our students that are taking the exam are not native English speakers. And the test anxiety that they face is like monumental. So we're hoping that we can get those non-native English speakers to remediate if in fact they don't pass the test the first time.
No, I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, just the written.
We just said that once you pass either one of the tests, you can get a temp. You can't do that, go to 800 hours.
No,
I mean,
absolutely
I
not.
think that has to be made clear.
Yeah, that will have to be part
Yes.
of what we get to where we're
Right.
going to do it. We'll have to clearly define.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think there's any intention for them to get a license before they.
No.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Can I comment on the BOSI sites, summer sites?
That's tomorrow's meeting, not this one.
This is Cheryl Winstow from State Education Department. I work with all the public schools, high schools, the BOSIs. And I know that the BOSIs would be more than willing to open up their buildings for summer testing sites, because that's always been a big deterrent for students getting licensed, because they graduate in June, they can't schedule till they pass their written in July and in August, and by then the students are off to college. And I know several of the BOSI CT directors have been asking me, why can't we be testing in the summer? So I'm sure if that option was put out there, I'm sure we would find sites that would be accountable to that.
Cheryl, that would be, this is Ray Amaker. I taught at BOSI's for 25 years, and I have a BOSI's teacher with me, and that would be a great thing, but I know the BOSI's in this area, the problem is always the rehab during the summer at those schools. So it would be wonderful if you could encourage the BOSI's to do that, because that has definitely been an issue for many, many years.
School open in Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah, and the way I ran a summer program in the BOSI's during the summer, so when I was running the program, they just didn't rehab my room until all the rest of the rooms were done. So they can definitely, it's only, you're talking one day, twice during the summer. So 2 days.
You have to put
total, so they
you can put a little pressure. You can put a little pressure on the superintendent, Cheryl. How's that sound?
I'll try.
Yeah, you can put a little pressure on them.
Okay, thanks. And that would be good because, obviously, the faster we can get students through the licensing process, the better for everybody, long term. Okay, thank you so much. Action items? Obviously we can't really do much because we don't have a quorum. But can we ask the aesthetics curriculum, the updates, that's been approved? Is that going to be going out shortly? Has it been sent over to BPSS for review?
Yes. Yes, it has. Thomas did make a comment on it. He said it was okay. I think all he wanted to know was when it was going to be rolled out. He said it was fine.
Well, good, because he helped us work on it. And I want to thank him for that. He had some great input, and the rest of the committee that worked on that also. So, we're just waiting for the department. I believe we're all set with it.
Good.
And I'll find out when is that going to be rolled out. I'll follow up with that. That's an action item for me. Okay, new business? Anybody? No, we're good? Okay. We have some guests here. Maybe we'll have some public comment. Ray, maybe we could have your guest speak first?
Absolutely. I'll introduce her. Her name is.
Inviting her.
Thank you. Her name is Pauline Carney, and she is a cosmetology teacher at the Orleans Niagara BOSI's in Sanborn, where I taught for many years. And I'd like to take a pat on the back for this because she was my student.
Oh, how nice.
Yes. And so it's a thrill for me to know that my students have come back in this capacity, and I know that a while ago I spoke with her when I taught there. She came in as a student teacher, and I talked to her about going back to school, so she has now received her master's degree. So I am extremely proud of her, and I would like to introduce her. Pauline.
Well, thank you thanks for the great introduction.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me be a part of today's meeting. It was very, very beneficial to me. In the classroom, we get very, very busy, and we kind of don't get all this information. I had a few. First of all, I would like to become part of this committee. Ray is kind of directing me on which way I have to go, so you'll be seeing my name around.
Excellent.
But first of all, the continuing education is really, really important, because many times I hear from stylists that, work in salons, their infection control is not there at all. And we need to continue education on mainly infection control, licensing. One other part I'd like to comment on, we were talking about the enforcement of the rules, and everything is on the website. the website is very hard to navigate to get to things that you want to get to. I have found that just from my own trying to get different licensing regulations, I cannot find it, and I'm very computer savvy. So I don't know if that has to be kind of, looked at a little bit more, but I'm just kind of looking in from the outside. But with that being said, I'm really interested in the e-licensing because it's really going to affect a lot of my students because what about if the students don't have computers? I have a lot of low-income students, and they can do their hours and do everything, but what if they can't get online to do the licensing?
Can they do it at school?
Yeah, is it at school?
Yeah, they're going to be able to do it at school and the public library.
Okay. I would, I know somebody had mentioned something about getting BOCES involved in that. I would definitely be willing to participate in like a pilot on that, just to kind of, answer questions and see how it works out. Another question I have on that, is it going to be strictly electronic? Is there going to be any paper applications or?
Initially, we're allowing for paper applications. We're, encouraging online, and with our real estate system, we did this, and eventually we mandated that everybody renewed online, so that it diminishes having to send out renewals, and when we get everybody providing us their emails, then we can start making communication via email, which is a great way to notify the industry of updates, of information that the board wants to send out, without the cost that's involved with it. So, we're really going to try to get everybody to do it online eventually. But initially, there's going to be a transition period where we're not just going to cut everybody off on paper applications.
Right. Is this going to go into effect for like June 2014, all the e-licensing?
Hopefully. It should go in by the end of the year.
Okay. Now, how are the teachers going to, or the schools going to sign off on those hours? Right now, on the paper copy, we initial and then it goes through the whole process.
There's going to be an email notification that goes out to the schools based on the email address that's given to us, and then you'll affirm based on that email that you get.
Great. This has been so nice. Thank you so much for having me, and it was very beneficial. I learned a lot.
See, I trained her well, didn't I?
Right. And Pauline, don't worry, we're going to be touching base with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's really important that we have BOCES input, particularly from the upstate people, because Ray's been a great help for us. But that we have people that are actually in the classroom, when we're talking about making curriculum changes or what works and what doesn't work. So, thank you, and we will be calling on you. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Okay, and we do have some public comment here in Manhattan. They signed it.
Yeah, they can sit over there.
Okay, great.
Good morning. My name is Rochelle Jasper Mosley, and I've been a stylist for over 24 years. And I got my license in Virginia. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I got it actually in high school. Over the 24 years that I've had my license, I have not had to have any advanced training at all. And cosmetology is more, as you guys know, it's about more than learning how to cut good or learning how to, clean your tools good and everything like that. I feel like over the 24 years that I have had my license, if I could have had maybe a class about how to structure myself for retirement, or how important it is to have health insurance, even how to even choose a salon, how to maintain my clientele, like how to really structure myself in this business, I had no clue. It was just trial and error the whole time. So these kids go to cosmetology school and they really think they're going to come out and have this rock star career, and it's just not like that. I don't think that it's being explained thoroughly how much dedication and time and commitment it takes to really maintain yourself in this industry. So I came up with a book called Life After Beauty School, Preparing for Your Exit. Wealth is not what you can make, it's what you can keep. Because a lot of times, as long as you feel like you can pay the bill, I know like over the years I've had, in my 20s I had like 40 credit cards from Boston to Florida. And I just felt that if I could pay the little $10 and $12 limit, that I could afford it. But a lot of these kids, and the reason why I say kids, because I structure my career around 20-year-olds that's graduating from beauty school that really need my help on how to really structure and maintain themselves. So they're thinking, okay, I got all these credit cards, it's cool to have them, but it's going to take you, on a $200 credit limit, which what I had when I was in my 20s, it was costing me $600, for the year to pay off a $200 bill. And I don't think that they're understanding and being clear about how to manage the money and how to maintain the money and and how to structure themselves as far as retirement and health insurance and stuff like that is concerned. A lot of hairstylists come out of a corporate job into cosmetology, and they have 401ks and stuff like that. We don't have that. Like, we have to have an IRA, and when we put that money in, it's just the money that we put in. Like, nobody's matching this. Mm-hmm. So these kids don't really know what to do when they leave beauty school. They are absolutely clueless. So I feel like it should be some more to that training, even if they're getting it from beauty school, or it could be, something that's structured, like, this is what you really need. You really, really need to know what you have to do to maintain after beauty school.
So are you saying that you feel that some of the continuing ed needs to be in a business environment, business management?
Absolutely, because they really don't know. Like, I've had 4 or 5 kids from my school from beauty school this year. I went into Empire to teach. I went down to Chicago, and I taught in John Amico's school just last week, over 100 and some kids, and nobody has a clue as to what's life gonna be like at 60 years old, or 65 years old, or 70, still trying to carry on a clientele standing behind the chair. Like, I think we really need to teach them and educate them on how you can really structure yourself, and at 65 and 70 years old, you have something to retire to.
One of the things that Rochelle was proposing as part of the continuing ed was that in addition to having mandatory disinfection and sanitation, that part of the continuing ed requirement would be to have some business management or business classes. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to say that although we have done everything we can to put business into every one of the appearance enhancement, we tried to increase the hours. There's just never enough time to get through the whole curriculum, and so that's why Dorothy and I are such proponents of continuing ed, because they could have an array of classes that they can pick. If they know disinfection control, they're a recent graduate, then they move into business and fiscal responsibility and planning for the future. So it's just a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm a big proponent of continuing ed. I'm not sure that anyone's made a determination of how much or what the subjects need to be or whatever. And you try to be generic enough that you can meet everybody. And as you can see from many of the other states, there are some that is very driven towards the consumer, and then some that's geared toward products, etc. But
even if it's even if you had maybe if our state was 14 hours,
Mhm.
if you had 7 hours cutting and coloring, you need
Right.
7 hours of
Absolutely,
business.
absolutely.
And what kind of business did you have?
Right.
Like, I think it needs to be.
yeah, there has to be a balance,
Yeah.
without a doubt. There absolutely has to be a balance, and there is some in all of the disciplines there is some business, and I think pretty much people have done a pretty good job of expanding that. But again, nothing like somebody that's when they've been out in the field for a while, they have a different
And I think that's true. I think, unfortunately, when they come out of school, they think they're going to make $1 million and they're only going to work 2 hours a week. But as they go along, they see that they really have to see what they're doing, pay attention to it, and it's at their own best interest to look into a financial advisor to see what they need to do to invest their money, to pay attention, especially now with the health insurance, because we all know that that's going to be a definite issue. So that's something that we have to look into. I think the continuing education is an excellent idea.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't, anybody we've spoken to that both on the board as well as, as some of our guests. So I thank you for coming to speak about it.
Right.
We do have one more person. Do you want to speak? You're with her. Okay, great. Okay. I do think it, we, as much as we've talked about it, and I know it may be difficult, but, I think it's something we really need to address as a board and as an industry. Are we going
I agree
this
with
way?
you. I agree with you.
I haven't heard anybody that disagrees with it. You know, and I think, again, as a board, it's something we really need to put forward
So-
if it means a
Are we, do we have a committee set up for the continuing ed? Somebody, a group that's going to put together what we need, or are we kind of on our own yet and we've not made a decision? And update me with some of that.
Yeah, we're still doing some research because we wanted to find out what was available online and,
Okay.
and how was that done and what the costs were.
Okay.
But we will have that probably. Are you gonna? You're gonna obviously work on that with us, right?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Before
and
the
I'm
snow
gonna-
flies, Dorothy.
Yeah, I know. And I'm gonna
I
reach
know.
out to some other people that I've already been working with
Okay.
to find out, you know, what they're doing. You know, as well as, you know, how much is online and how much it costs
Okay.
and what the, I think the big thing with online education, which we're all worried about, is the security. You know, you
Yeah.
need,
Oh,
we need
definitely.
to make sure that the person that's taking the class is actually the person, you know, number one. Number
Oh,
two,
absolutely.
you know, in some states, what happens is when somebody does a class, like I do the continuing ed for our Chicago region, and after I do it, I have to take the certificates and the numbers and direct it and send it directly to the state board where it goes into their license and they keep track of it. Same thing in Georgia. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but at the
Right.
same time, I want part of the, not me, but the committee has felt that we don't want to be so prescriptive with stuff that you're making it outdated by the time it becomes a regulation. So we do feel, however, that disinfection and sanitation is absolutely huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's changing constantly. So, you know, we wanted to have a specific number of hours set aside for that. So,
Okay.
we were
Great.
looking at 16, but that's what the majority of the committee felt. But there were a couple that felt it was too much.
No, I don't
so-
know about that.
Yeah, I know. It's only 4 hours.
I don't know
a
about
year.
that.
Really not a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think we'll table it and we'll have
Okay.
some more information by the next meeting.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing, and that reminded me, we had made a change to the business law for the waxing about the gloves and stuff. Has that gone out? That change? Do we know?
Yeah. I thought
Yes.
so. I thought so.
I don't remember seeing it.
No. Who would say?
We can
Yeah, and-
find out. Yeah, we'll check with Whitney and maybe have Carol send an email out.
Yeah, I know we did a study for her of the, well, I did another thing for Whitney. We did the
Price of blood.
pricing, yeah, et cetera. So I know that was, I think it was going to budget after that, how much it would cost a practitioner to have to buy special gloves and waxing machines, et cetera. So I know we sent that to Whitney a couple months ago as a follow-up.
It was about no double dipping
Yeah.
and no contaminating the can of wax
Right.
and wearing protective gloves. So all we were going to do is add an H to one of the articles in General Business Law 27.
Right.
And we're under the impression that it's ready to go. The schools and the licensees have to be notified. How would that work?
I don't know.
Yeah, we need to make sure now that every licensee knows that whenever they're doing any waxing service, whether it's in the treatment room or if it's, you know, a cosmetologist doing or a nail technician doing any type of waxing, they're required to wear gloves.
Well,
Well,
once,
definitely would be put on our website. As
Okay.
far as the that would have to be determined, you know, whether it will be done. You know,
Okay.
if it's ready to go now, we might be able to include it in the letter that I'm sending on putting licensing, who knows, you know?
Right.
We always need to think about postage costs and stuff, but we'll look into it. We'll talk to Whitney and see what the status of it is.
Okay, that would be great. And, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, with the email blast, because, you know, I'm licensed in a couple of other states, and whenever there's a regulatory change, I get an email blast telling me that, you know, this has changed or that has changed. And I think a way for us to communicate with our practitioners going forward, email blast, cost effective, transparent, effective, efficient, you know, when something like this comes up, because we don't want the inspectors going in now telling people that, you know, they should be doing something. But maybe some of the inspectors also, when they're visiting, can you know, leave some information with the businesses telling them these things are pending. You know, when these, how many did you say, 20 inspectors? You know, maybe when they're visiting some of the salons in the area, you could put together a little booklet or a pamphlet about e-licensing coming on board and, to be expecting a pin, or, maybe we can start letting salons know.
I was just saying the fastest way this is 2 years in the making to change this regulation. I think the fastest way is to get it to the schools and ask the schools to contact all their graduates saying that it is happening, there is no more double dipping, you have to use sterilized tools, you have to use protective gloves. Our schools can get out the information we have 20 years of records.
Yeah.
So we can do it on an e-blast. It would save a lot of time, a lot of money while you're deciding the other way to do it. But we can get the message out fast. And we're happy to do it.
Well, if they have a waxing license, they can. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Just checking.
Okay, so, I'll present that to the schools also, to ask them to make sure, and maybe we have some advisory meetings and stuff coming up, we can work with our salons and let them know also that these things are coming up. Okay, any other comments?
In Albany, anybody here?
Anybody in Albany?
I don't even know if I qualify.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yes.
Surprisingly.
You can come up here.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up where you can see me. I've been hiding behind a chair in the back, making snide comments and faces.
Hey, Anthony.
Oh.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, everybody else. Hi out there in Buffalo.
Hey, Anthony.
Hi. Just a couple things. Negotiated rulemaking is going on down in Washington. We're renegotiating gainful employment. There is a massive move across the country, I would like to say, on streamlining and easing the credentialing process. So to have it doing here is something that's really essential. The schools are going to be held, and not just cosmetology, any certificate programs, or any programs that lead to a certification below the associate's level are going to be held to additional scrutiny for making their students, or graduates I should say, employable. So it's not about going to school anymore. It's not about graduating them. It's about getting them jobs. Because the federal government is looking at return on investment now. I won't go into all the matriculation of how they're coming about with this and everything, but from the school's point, anything that we can do to ease that credentialing process for them, anything that we can do with the agencies without compromising the integrity of the process. Obviously, we don't want to do that. So we actually have 2 states right now where it's part of the governor's job bill to ease the credentialing, not to ease the credentialing process, but to change the order in which it's being done. And I know at the beginning, Keith, we had some conversations about this and trying to do, protect the integrity of the education and trying to do both the written and practical prior to graduation so that the last thing that the student actually does is complete their hours. Some states are eliminating the practical examination altogether because of the fact that it's a test that across the board, students are passing at about a 96% rate. We know all the material on it, so we teach to it, so it's really not a test, it's an exercise. And they're running into situations where they're, like with test sites, the highest cost of the credentialing process is the practical examination. So they're looking at different types of, I've been working with Pearson VUE, and Pearson VUE is going to actually develop a practical written test. So it's just something I want to just kind of throw out on the table. I know it's impossible to do it right now. We've been almost 2 years in the process of just getting the written pre-graduation, so I know that it's a process. So, but it's something that we may want to look at, and again, not just for the cosmetology disciplines, but for other disciplines, because it also no more temporary licenses. The licenses go out once if you don't pass, and there's states that are handling it a lot different. So Indiana did away with temporary licenses. If you don't finish the process by the time you're not done with school, you're still not licensed. You have to finish it. So there's kind of, that's a double-edged sword, if you will, but they're handling it, the different states are handling it differently, and they're looking at, and most of them, what they're doing is they're doing away with the practical examination. And they're going to what they call a written practical. So, something to think about. Just on on some of this other stuff, the sequencing of the test. How in the system are you going to identify the student that went to test early with the written, and not issue them a practical or issue them a temporary license, versus the student who just got out of school and maybe sequence things 1 or 2 weeks apart? I'm concerned about that, because if we start having students do the pre-graduate testing, pass the examination, all of a sudden they receive a license in the mail, they won't come back to school. So it's a concern there that there's maybe some kind of level within the database.
They won't be able to, well, first of all, they won't be able to take the practical until they finish school.
Right.
So that would ensure that they finish school.
Correct.
Yeah, because we want to ensure that they finish school.
I think there'd be something to indicate that they've reached this level, and now
Yeah,
would
that, I
be
mean, that'll all
eligible
be
for their written
defined when
exam.
we modify the system.
Okay, I just want to bring that up to make sure that we have that
Yes.
modification.
And I think that prior to actually making the changes, there'll be a meeting with what the actual intention is, to make sure that we're, modifying the system to meet the needs
Okay.
of what you're looking for. But
Because-
first, we want to get the system up and running, and then see how it's working, and then modify it to the needs of what you guys are looking for.
Because there would be some pretty major consequences for the school if that were to happen.
Right.
Because you wouldn't be able to count the student as a completer, they wouldn't be a graduate, that would just create a whole
And
lot.
I think that whole early testing thing included, at least for our state, because some other states they did it, they didn't have to finish, was that they had to finish school.
Well, Florida was the one state you could challenge the board at 1,000 hours, and if you passed the test, you were done. And that's why if you talk to people in Florida, they just don't, they hardly ever give that test, because the schools are not advocating for that.
Right.
Because you can't count the student as a completer or a graduate.
Right.
They're a non-completer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't think that was the intention. I think
No.
it was just how it's
And the way things currently are with the practical, since they have to finish school before they're eligible for that, that'll ensure that they finish.
Going back to the practical, maybe what we need to do is start looking at some private sites where we can hold the test. I know in Pennsylvania, our company, Pearson View, contracts with our company to use our test sites in the summer. Uses our schools as test sites in the summer.
Yeah, and I think we use the private
We
schools.
do.
We have
They use
availability
our schools in the
for
summer.
It's the BOCES school, it's the public
Also.
schools that oftentimes have, over the years, and we'll recanvass them to see if they can make anything available, I suppose.
me open my school
The
envelope.
problem was that, like somebody had mentioned, they do a lot of their work during the
Right.
summertime, and so.
But if you wanted to use some of the private sites, maybe look at some of the private sites as temporary during the summer, so that we can facilitate those people, not waiting from June until September or October to be able to get into a practical examination. Because we're finding
Anthony-
that any lapse in that is pretty severe. Yes,
In all the private schools, they do test in the summer. It's just a couple of the BOCES schools where they don't,
okay.
including,
I'm going back
our
for them
location.
too.
I'm sorry? I know, me too.
I'm going back for them too. I
Me
want to
too.
make sure the students have the opportunity to get this done. The other thing is that we should probably look at, when you're talking about continuing ed, we may, and I know council is sitting in, I think, in New York.
Yes.
Is there going to be a necessity for either a statutory or a regulatory change there?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They would, there would
Yes.
have to be
Yes.
changes to authorize the additional requirements.
I believe that that's what Whitney is working on, if I'm not mistaken, is it not?
Well, the only items that I'm aware of that she's currently working on that I was
Involved
asked to
with.
address or involved with were specifically the early testing and the MSDS thing.
Mhm.
She could very well be working on the continuing ed stuff, but I don't know
Yeah,
that.
we
so.
we did submit some stuff to her, but I know that she's working on the early testing and the, because I don't think it was a regulatory change, if I'm not mistaken. 'Cause it
No, they
doesn't
both
say.
were. Oh, the
Yeah,
for the continuing ed.
no, for the early testing.
My understanding is that they both require reg changes.
Okay.
And then just one final question, because I wasn't clear on the answer. I know council in New York was talking about that we're looking at some fiscal implications of the database and changes that would have to be to that. Is the inclusion of the early testing, I wasn't quite sure, is that contingent upon cost?
That's what I said.
That would just be one of the factors that they would look at.
That is, yeah.
So it is contingent upon cost.
I don't know that definitely is. I think that that's just, I think that's part of when you put a regulatory change through.
Right.
Is what the costs are and all that kind of stuff. So
Well,
that has to be.
Right, and there's always a submission to, again, I think the budget office or whatever, that what the implication is, and below a certain amount, it's insignificant.
Yeah, and I don't know how,
Above.
truthfully, I don't know how specifically it works in New York State, but yes, it certainly, there's all kinds of, impacts of, monetarily,
Fiscal impact.
fiscally.
Right.
And other impacts other than those,
Sure,
but
sure.
they look at them all, so I don't know if they have a threshold.
Okay.
Right, and let me address just generally the process itself. Besides the internal review that it gets from the administration, you know, outside of the
Right.
department, once the language is chosen and the regulation is put outside, there's a public comment period
Right, exactly.
that it's published. So, and to the extent that there's any comments at all that come in, that basically extends the time again, because then the department has to reconsider all those comments.
Correct. Yes.
If there are any amendments, then it's open again for
Right.
another public comment period.
Right.
So, you know, nothing is going to be finalized until we're done with that.
I do believe that the waxing is out for public comment, because I think Whitney sent me that.
Yeah.
Because I was checking to see, because I did that study for her, a little bit of the expenses that she was submitting to budget. So I believe that that's out. I don't know about the other two.
I just want to make a comment on the waxing.
Sure.
We do now in New York State regulate the prohibition of double dipping.
Thank God.
So, I mean, the only thing I guess would be new is the gloves.
Right.
But it's what we
Mhm.
do
Right.
regulate and enforce on prohibition for double dipping.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just getting people out of that habit.
That's great. It'll be better when it goes into the PDF.
Well, it's getting their practitioners to do it. It's not a matter of just putting it in writing, because it's already there. Any additional comments? Anybody? No?
I wanted to raise something else. This is Ruth Singer from BPSS. I handed out to the folks here, but some people are obviously in other locations, just that the policy guideline we have posted on our website, policy guideline 21-0301, addresses the review of transcripts for students who have had prior instruction but did not complete their program elsewhere. This policy guideline was revised, I believe, back maybe in May, relatively recently, but we just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. So if you just went to our website, went to the policy guidelines and took a look at 21-0301, everyone would be familiar with what the guideline currently states. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, any additional comments? Or? I would like to publicly thank the department. In November, we have the state of New Jersey. I went to a state board meeting several months ago, and they're in the process of, removing models, hopefully, and going with mannequins. And the department has graciously allowed 3 people from the New Jersey State Board to monitor one of our tests in Manhattan. So I appreciate that, because, having schools in New Jersey, if I can eliminate the use of models and have mannequins in New Jersey, I'd be very happy. And they're excited to be able to monitor your test. So thank you for allowing that to happen. I appreciate that. And if there's no more comments, I think we can adjourn. Okay, thank you, everybody, as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good,
Have a great day, everybody.